Thank you so much for joining us on This Week in Agriculture with me, Esther Gishuki. And joining me is none other than Okisegere Ojapat, CEO of Fresh Produce Consortium. Karibu sana, Okisegere. I just want to give you an opportunity to briefly tell us about yourself and what you do.
As you have rightly said, I work for Fresh Produce Consortium of Kenya as the CEO. And Fresh Produce Consortium of Kenya is an association that brings together actors in the fresh produce industry that include farmers, aggregators, consolidators, supermarket, groceries, and those that are in export business for fruits, vegetables, herbs and spices, and flowers. So we basically are here to ensure we advocate good business ethics and ensure that our members are in good business. And then the other thing that we do is now ensure that there's safe trade happening between us and our trading partners, both in the domestic market, in the regional market, and in the export market. That includes market and market linkages and information that is there, change of policy, trade agreements, trade treaties, and basically look at quality aspects that are required for us to do this. And just ensure that the flow of events from the farm through to the marketplace are happening well. And so that's what we do with different people. We have different projects in different places with different actors in the value chain.
Okay. So you can talk to us a little bit about the kind of projects that you currently have right now.
One of the main projects that we currently have is about food safety. And we talk about food safety here because ordinarily in the past we have focused our energy so much on the export market, which is only comprising to between 4 to 5% of what we produce as a country. And this then has made it difficult for us to be able to grow that market. So what we've done now is get into the domestic market space, engage smallholders, and now we're busy in ensuring that the smallholders are well informed. We are busy training the growers, we are busy training the technical team, we are busy engaging with counties, training them at different capacities. We are busy working on production plans, busy working on the marketing plans, just to ensure that the production and marketing is done in the right way. And that has helped us to be able to also ensure that farmers get standards, domestic market standards and global market standards that now allow us to place our products in the marketplace without any fear of contradiction in terms of safety.
True. And even sitting from your point of perspective, what do you think people can learn, people who are aspiring and also already those already in the field can learn from Moi when it comes to farming?
For me, you need to be disciplined, and farming is a profession. Just like any other profession, you need to be disciplined, keep the focus, and be consistent.
Which is very important, especially for people who are just getting into the business, and even people who are already in the business, to look outside, think outside the box, and find where you can plug in when it comes to the value chain. Now we'll move on to our first story of the day, where the Agrochemical Association of Kenya, together with the Pest Control Products Board, has held a brief to unravel Kenya's pesticide regulatory process. Among the measures a Pest Control Products Board has put in place is to ensure the ingredients in the pesticides are safe for human usage and empowering farmers on safety precautions on spraying pesticides. The sensitization of farmers is done through field days and agricultural shows.
The Pest Control Product Board is set to reduce loss on crops resulting from pesticides. This will be actualized by a number of regulations they have put in place.
EU, that is where the basis of this debate is coming from. The EU have changed their mode of assessment from risk assessment to hazard-based assessment. This hazard-based assessment does not take into account the exposure. And that is where the risk assessment is done in a manner that you factor in the hazard and then bring in exposure, then check the risk mitigation that is required for that particular product, and then just stipulate that in the label.
Speaking during the workshop at a hotel in Nairobi, Joel Motai, Advocacy and Liaison Manager of AAC, encourages farmers to abide by PCPB Act in order to refrain from losses.
The PCPB Act dictates and guide the farmers as well. Yeah? They guide the farmers with the intention to identify pest control products that are genuine. Remember, we cannot rule out counterfeits coming into this country. They are also guiding the farmers on the application of pesticide. And remember, these are in the label. And then the amount of pesticide to apply. How much should you apply? Even the number of intervals. How long should you spray? If you spray today, how long will you wait until you spray the next? Just like the doses in the medicinal products. They also advise farmers on the PPEs, whether this molecule requires you to use PPEs. And they also do a lot about transportation, storage, and disposal of the pest control products, because these are just not any other product. It's just a very unique products, and they are very highly regulated, and it needs a lot of attention, and the farmer should actually be guided on this.
With the increasing population of Kenya, there is need to produce more food. Regulated by PCPB, Agrochemicals Association of Kenya is on the plight to enhance food security. Marion Munyao reporting for KTN Farmers TV.
This even touches back to what we were talking about food safety, all the way from primary production all through the value chain. I want to get your thoughts on that story.
For me, first, it's critical and it's important to get government working with the private sector in educating and empowering the growers. And we can do better, we can do more, but that's a very good initiative where you get the government regulatory body and the private sector in the agrochemical industry coming out and really empowering people. I deal with smallholders, and for me the definition of smallholders is some people have up to less than an acre. They could be having a quarter an acre in terms of production. The way pesticides are therefore used in a small farm and the way pesticides are used in a big farm, it varies. One, somebody who is in a small farm will have to buy a small pack. And sometimes it becomes difficult to go to the shop to find a pack that is small enough to fit one spray pump. So what has happened is that we've ensured that farmers form farmer groups. And every farmer group then has a spray service provider. That spray service provider is trained and capacity built to be able to dispense the right information and to be able to dispense the pesticide, measure, be able to spray, and be able to dispose of the remains. In an event, there's a balance in a container. There's what we call safe and responsible disposal of empty containers. There's a scenario where they have been trained to ensure that they've done scouting to identify the target pest or disease even prior to them getting into a spray program. And that then works very well. What is happening also is that farmers are now being educated on the real-time, practical, in a simplified way to understand that I need to use 20 millimeters for 20 liters of water in one knapsack sprayer, and that's enough for me to finish this pest. And then I need to dress appropriately. I need to have my headgear, I need to have my goggles, I need to have my mouth mask, I need to have my gloves, I need to have my overall, and I need to have my gumboots as a bare minimum requirement for me to be able to get out to spray. Then critically is, what do I do in terms of storage of that pesticide? They are then trained on how to store pesticides. And what we have now done is ensure that a farmer group of between 30 to 50 builds one collective store so that we all don't need to pack our products into a pesticide in our houses, but we have a common store where all pesticides that are left are stored. So that's a very good thing. Then there's the knowledge when we look at pictograms, the first aid, in case of an exposure, what do you do? So this is what we are doing every day. And then there is what we call documentation. All this is backed up by documentation, and that brings in an element of traceability. So now we can be able to trace that one tomato kilo that is in a supermarket. We can trace back to identify up to which of these farmers in this farmer group gave us this kilo. And for me, that's credit, and appreciate that effort has gone into it. And now we have brought in the AFA to come in so that we can put efforts together. Two regulatory bodies, and now KFIS is coming in, and we now have the private sector on this other side. It makes our life easier, only if we will make use of that information.
So now we move on to the coffee sector, where coffee farmers from across Kenya flocked to the Coffee Research Institute in Ruiru to attend the annual coffee fair. The event was geared towards bringing together various stakeholders to learn new technologies, explore various opportunities in the coffee sector and network.
Farmers from all walks of life flocked here at the Coffee Research Institute in Ruiru. At the gate, farmers were registered and given booklets about the rundown of affairs and exhibitors for both days. One such exhibitor was Jamlek from Elgon, Kenya.
Coffee, if you know, for the last over 60 years, it has been one of the major crops, cash crops in this country. And therefore, over time, though it has gone down, we still feel that as companies, we need to revive it and give farmers what they require, them that are in business. And therefore, why we are here is to tell farmers that this coffee is still economical to do. It is still a business. It's not something that we need to forego.
Climate change is real, and it is here and now. Given that coffee is one of the most hard-hit crops with the climate change effects, it was important for farmers to be educated on how to do things the climate-smart way. Thus, exhibitors such as Moses of Lentera had to attend.
We work with farmers to help them adapt to climate change. And we have three main services that we offer. So we provide them with precision agriculture, so using satellites and drones to monitor farms to help them make the right decisions. We also provide them with a package of climate-smart inputs. So these are fertilizers, both organic and mineral-based, that help them with drought tolerance, help the trees, or in this case for coffee, to produce more and better quality in a safe way. We also provide farmers with conservation agriculture. So we train them on techniques, practices to grow their crops more sustainably and in harmony with the environment. So it was very important for us to exhibit today because we believe the CRI, Coffee Research Institute Coffee Fair, is a fantastic opportunity to meet coffee farmers from all over the country. Coffee is one of the crops that is hard hit by climate change, and we see that our portfolio matches well the needs of the coffee farmer. So from the satellite-based crop monitoring to the planting fertilizers to the foliar fertilizers, the farmers who we work with step by step of the journey will have a higher yield even with the changing climatic conditions.
The Nairobi Coffee Exchange was also present to demystify the misconceptions around what they do and how they help farmers.
We have had all sorts of stories about what we do. And we felt it is important to demystify our activities. We needed to help the farmers because this is a forum where the farmers will come, everybody will come and help them understand exactly what do you do and how do we do it and how can they be able to benefit even through the platform that we have at the auction.
Although the coffee industry in Kenya continues to face a myriad of challenges that have adversely affected coffee production in the country, Kenyan coffee continues to be one of the best coffees in the world. There is hope that with such fairs happening on a regular basis, together with good policy implementation, the coffee industry will go back to the giant it was. Esther Gishuki for KTN Farmers TV.
Your thoughts on that?
I'm glad that we are now having coffee discussion. As we are talking now, there's a discussion in Mombasa with AFCA, with all coffee actors, and the discussion in Ruiru is critical. For long, we dwelt on two varieties on coffee. And then for long, there was no motivation for people to do coffee, to continue farming coffee. And a few farmers in the recent past chose to cut down the coffee trees and went into horticulture because horticulture was seen to be best paying. I'm glad that the leader, the chair of the coffee task force is my good friend and my former colleague, Kenywa. And I know that there's a new leadership now. What's happening in the coffee is we need innovation in terms of new varieties. And we need to look at what innovation in terms of how we package coffee and make it simplified. And can I shock you that Kenya is still selling coffee to blend other coffees out there?
Very surprising.
So the discussion going on is a very healthy discussion because it helps us to look at innovation. It helps us to look at how we brand our coffee. It helps us to ensure that we can now have Kenyan coffee in the markets. Can I shock you? If I go to Starbucks in America today, I will have Starbucks coffee, but possibly that Starbucks coffee came from Kenya, packed by Starbucks. And yet, our neighbors in Ethiopia have Ethiopian coffee in America. So meaning our coffee is used to blend. When I go to other places where they don't even have a single tree of coffee, they call it their coffee. Then you're asking, your coffee, I thought this was Kenyan coffee, bought from Mombasa. So it's healthy that we now have a very robust coffee leadership that is geared towards promoting that. And I also want to encourage you that if every Kenyan can take 1 kilo of coffee per year, we'll really create, can you imagine 40+ million Kenyans buying 1 kilo of coffee? We'll already have provided so much market for coffee. Because why perhaps horticulture has been flourishing very well is because we also participate in eating the same. So in this area, I'm so glad that innovation is part of it, technology is part of it, and the way we have demystified the previous discussion on coffee, where coffee was a coffee for the big people. Now coffee can be handled by anybody, including the youth. In fact, at this point in time, I want to encourage the youth to walk into the coffee industry and get into branding and marketing coffee, because that's what they know best. And let the people who do farming, then do farming, bring it over. Let's add value for this coffee. Let's ensure that we do not use our coffee for blending out there. Let's refine our coffee and send it as properly processed coffee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very important. Yeah. Moving on, over the years, the Maasai have relied exclusively on cattle as a source of livelihood. But as resources like land continue to diminish, making it almost impossible to continue practicing pastoralism. Now, the Maasai, with the help from the Action Africa International, are finding new ways for this community to make a living. Philip Keitani visited this community and now lets us know more.
Pastoralism has been the primary livelihood for the Maasai for centuries, but large herds of growing population places high pressure on land, competing with wildlife for vegetation in the dry season. Moreover, an over-reliance on livestock leaves the Maasai vulnerable to shocks like drought and animal diseases. But now, things are changing in parts of the Maasai Mara as the Maasai community adopt new livelihood projects that are meant to enhance their way of living, as well as diversify their sources of income, with women being at the forefront of these efforts, with Action Africa Help International Kenya being their guide.
Here we work on livelihood activities. When we talk livelihood, we are talking of projects which looks towards improving people's living standards in Mara.
With the aim of sustainable improving livelihoods of pastoral communities in Maasai Narok County, Narok West Sub-County, livelihoods diversification itself is a resilient strategy, as households have an alternative source of income to fall back on if a major shock like drought and subsequent loss of livestock hit one of their income-generating strategies. The project is meant to contribute to sustainable improvement of livelihoods of pastoral communities through strengthening of social and economic activities under 3 components. That is women micro-enterprise development, where the high rate of illiteracy among pastoral women undermines their families and communities' living standards and development. Mayan Women Group is one of the beneficiaries of the project that has seen them learn how to read and write, as well as learn the basic principles of saving and starting small businesses.
Kusema kweli, mambo na ng'ombe na mwanamke ilikuwa mbali na yeye. Ilikuwa yeye tu kazi yake ni kukamua hiyo ng'ombe yenye mzee amelete, alafu hata wakati mzee anataka kuuza ama wakati mzee anataka kupeana hata hawezi shauriana na yeye. Lakini tukaanza kusema ni nini hawa mama wanafanya. Sasa walitushika moyo kwa sababu akileta hata ile madawa ya kutoa minyoo anapea hiyo yake na anapea ingine yangu 2 ama 3 ama hata 10. Sasa nikaanza kuona hii kondoo yake inazidi kunona na yangu pia. Sasa hapo ikajengeka uhusiano kwamba hawa wanaweza.
The project is also working with the youth in primary school to provide them with an opportunity to gain business skills through poultry farming and vegetable gardening.
Club yetu inaitwa Young Farmers Business Club. Ilianza 2017. Ilitusaidia na pesa ndio tununue hizi kuku. Hii club inatusaidia kwa maarifa. Tunapata maarifa ya kwenda kufuga nyumbani. Tukipata pesa mingi, tunanunulia chakula, tunakuja tunanunulia members mathematical set na biros.
These livelihood projects are meant to help ease the pain of these vulnerable communities.
The Maasai have been pastoralists for such a long time. And now through this story, we're seeing that they're now expanding their wings. They're moving into more of a diversification. What are your thoughts on that?
I am a happy man because one, for too long, Maasais have been following cows. And you feed a cow and you chase the same cow. So the cow is spending energy and you expect that cow to have converted the same energy into give you new milk or meat. What has happened is a good thing. One, that there's a lot of knowledge now on improved varieties and that you can now use a smaller piece of land to produce more. I know in areas like Rongai, we have people who have 100+ cows in less than 2-3 acres. And that could not have happened in the previous. So it's a good thing. I live and work in Maasai land. And Maasai land, I know that previously it used to be meat. Now they're also eating vegetable. Now we've seen people go into kitchen gardens. Now we've seen people go into borehole, digging boreholes. And that's able to avail water throughout the year. That is an innovation and a departure from the previous, where they used to walk following areas where it was wet and where there was pasture. And that also disabled, it made them a bit difficult to sit together and make sense when it comes to farming. So it's a good thing that's happening. The other beautiful part of it is that it has improved the nutritive composition of the food that the Maasai community eats. Off from meat, now they can have their vegetable right there. Now they can have their fruits right there. And they're in control of the production system. And you can eat fresh on something you have.
Aside from education and awareness, how else can we encourage them?
Education and awareness, what is important is we must go there and provide market for their product. Because there's education, there's awareness. Unless we work with them and ensure that whatever they produce is as a market, there will be no reason why I should invest if I can't sell it out. So it's critical that, Esther, we work with them, develop together, walk one step at a time, understand where they're coming from, and feed into it and capacity build them. But if you just talk about training and capacity building and we don't provide market, forget it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we hold on to that as we take a short commercial break, but we'll be back with more.